Some folk think I got on top of Lurbuck the way I defend the old badger. But it ain't like that. Even I got standards.
In a blizzard.
Feel free to grab a bit and come out. I prefer not to sully myself with manual labor. Only a fool lets himself get surrounded. Bandits are cowards.
People think women are vain for trying to look good. Just because men are lazy and don't even bother having a wash doesn't mean we are vain.
Himself gets surrounded.
do to get a drink around here? Actually, I don't think I want to know.
Team, eh?
How it's done. Have you ever woken up in the morning with a big cock in your ear? That damn bird screeched so loud that I cooked it for dinner. That's why stables are a bad place to sleep. Luckily the farmer didn't find out about it.
Wonder if any of my ancestors ever walked these halls.
Seen anything quite like that.
What is that? There's someone there. Everything in here seems to be about death. Burial urns, crypts, funeral shrouds. It's a bit depressing.
Bread seems to be very popular, don't you think? It's all people ever seem to eat.
Never knew a place could be so ancient. I bet it's over 1,000 years old. Still here.
That armor must be difficult to polish. The next time you take your armor off and find it a bit hard, I could help give it a quick rub for you. Oh no, that didn't come out as intended.
Still here.
Can I assist you? I wonder what the ancient lords used this place for.
Retrieved the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. Well done. You have now passed all the trials. Come with me. It is time for us to recognize you formally as Dragonborn. You are ready to learn the final word of unrelenting force. Da, which means push. Da.
I've got your back.
With all three words together, this shout is much more powerful. Use it wisely. Master Wolfgar will now gift you with his knowledge of Da. You have completed your training, Dragonborn. We would speak to you. Stand between us and prepare yourself. Few can withstand the unbridled voice of the Greybeards, but you are ready. Indra crosses Saran, Strundul, Othi Balan, Lo, Ran, now. Dovahkiin. You have tasted the voice of the Greybeards and passed through unscathed. High Hrothgar is open to you.
Can I assist you?
Long has the Snowthroat stood, gleaming in shades of pallid white, a last refuge for mortals who use their voice as a tool of reason, and never for war. Perhaps, but those you slaughter in the name of peace will retaliate, and the cycle of destruction begins anew. In order to perpetuate peace, understanding and negotiation are far more useful tools. I am all in. I have walked Tamriel for years uncounted, seeing nothing but violence and blood. When the Daedra attacked my homeland, I was forced to kill. Now the Thalmor sweep across the land like a black plague, bringing death and destruction wherever they go. I wanted no part of the conflicts that rage across the land, and sought refuge here, high upon the slopes of the throat of the world. Alas, no. While the greybeards contemplate the meaning, the essence of each word of power, I spend my days in search of ultimate truth, and learn of the world below through the eyes of another, recorded on dusty pages that defy time. The duality of life and death, the nature of existence, the motivations that tug at the heartstrings of all mortals. These are my areas of research, and while I make no such claim, there are many who would call me a natural philosopher. I also enjoy a good riddle now and then. Nothing as formal as that. I do not enjoy doing others harm, and I've never been of a solitary nature, but I'm no pacifist. Fear not, I shall defend us with my life if necessary. Though if peace could ever be found amidst the chaos of war, I will gladly lay down my arms. Perhaps it is time I take a more active role in shaping the world. If our destiny is to keep evil forever at bay, then so be it. Let me know when you are ready to depart. Then tell me your thoughts, and I shall spin them into a grand song. That's quite understandable. I've lived quite a long and rich life, so you may want to sit down while I tell my tale. My past is more varied and tenuous than you might think. My earliest memory goes back to an unknown time. I recall waking up in an Aldmeri ship, sailing through seas of bitter cold. Angry waves and dark skies dominated my view, from horizon to horizon. I knew not where I was, and the other passengers were grievously wounded. Some were missing limbs, others were covered in burns and scars, all refused to say a word. Even the navigator stared silently, his jaws set and shoulders squared. Of that I knew not. I alone had escaped injury, and for months uncounted we sailed upon chartless waters. One by one they died off, until only myself, the navigator, and 2 others remained. Still they refused to speak, and what little I could glean from the books and charts suggested we had originally sailed to bring about a new dawn in a land that Auriel had forsaken. It gets stranger. As I was exploring this ship that had become my world, I came across a hatch carved beneath the deck. Inside was a vast amount of books, scrolls, and tomes. I found I could read most of them with ease, suggesting that I was a scholar of some note. Little by little, I reacquainted myself with the world of man and Myr. I learned of the founding of the Sigics and the split of Aldmeri society. I watched the sunbirds of Alinor journey to Aetherius in search of our celestial origins, and return with otherworldly minerals. I witnessed Topal's expedition for Aldmeris, and how he charted much of Tamriel before his return to Somerset. Indeed, from the age of those books I suspected I was in the early Merethic era. Yet it was not until we had almost reached port, a full year after I had awakened, were my suspicions confirmed. Ships flying the Dureni flag bombarded us as soon as we were within sight, and we never stood a chance. I slipped overboard and swam for shore as the ship I once knew as the whole world sank behind me. Thus my life as an exile began. With cunning and skill, I evaded House Dureni and lived upon the edges of society for centuries, using illusion magic to conceal my identity. Eventually they left the island of Somerset and settled in High Rock, and I was no longer hunted. Yet I had been estranged for far too long, and sought nothing but quiet isolation. Thus I travelled north, and spent the better part of the First Era sequestered in the Crystal Tower, studying and browsing the endless stores of knowledge held there. The Slode. They invaded my island home, and raised the dead interred atop the Crystal Tower with their foul necromantic rituals. That day was the first I was forced to take a life. My fellow mages and I defeated the undead, and I used solar magic to fend off the invading Slode fleet. 6 years of constant bloodshed followed, until the last of them turned tail and fled back to Thras. We were victorious, yet I could not stay, as Somerset brought up too many dark memories. I set foot on the mainland for the first time, upon the shores of Valenwood. There I had read of a machine far beneath the Tower of Green Sap, where one can step inside and be shown their inner self. I was hoping such a contraption would dispel the veil of memory so obscure, and reveal why I was on that ill-fated expedition, and why I was hunted by the Direni. I did, but not the answers I seek. When I stepped in the centre of that orrery, a golden acorn flashed high above, and for a second the entire Tower of Green Sap seemed to think, ponder, contemplate its very existence, while it fluctuated through what can only be described as all its states of being. Suddenly, the infernal machine showed an image of an Elder Scroll, before the entire tower collapsed back into one single form, no longer sentient. Not yet. Such dramatic interplay with one of the towers was almost unheard of, and it took all my diplomatic skill to convince the Bosmer I meant them no harm. However, once I succeeded in that regard, I was pressured to stay in Valenwood and act as a sort of emissary between them and their mobile tower. There I stayed, learning their culture and the ways of peace until the Three Banners War swept through Valenwood and I departed under cover of darkness. Molag Bal and his plane meld was a threat I could not ignore, and I travelled north to Cyrodiil, slaughtering Daedra and destroying dark anchors wherever I could find them. When the planar vortex was finally destroyed and known safe from Daedric rule, I headed northwest into Morrowind, following rumours of an Elder Scroll secured within the mushroom towers of House Telvanni. I did, but at a terrible price. The Telvanni wizard graciously allowed me to study his scroll, and I did just that, for many days. I saw disjointed pieces and disconnected ideas floating about like leaves in an autumn gust. I realised I would need a trained interpreter to help me decipher the scroll. However, the Telvanni wizard had been watching me for days, and realised I could not be blinded from an Elder Scroll. He demanded I stay while he conducted experiments on me, and I refused. There we duelled, I with dawn magic from Aldmeri times, and he with twisted spells gleaned from his research. We laid waste to his tower, as well as the surrounding village, until I finally slew him and claimed his scroll. Yet I was also consumed by sorrow and grief at the destruction I wrought, and vowed to never again claim an innocent life. It was. I fled Morrowind, barely avoiding the wrath of House Telvanni, and lost my pursuers amid the swamps of Blackmarsh, where they dare not tread. There I stayed, starting a new life as a mentor in a tribal village. Centuries passed, and I was quite content to live out the rest of my days here, until the opening of the Oblivion Gates heralded a new chapter of war. The Hist called to the Argonians, and I fought with them to vanquish Dagon's forces. We closed gate after gate, and fought with such ferocity that Dagon's generals admitted defeat, and retreated from Blackmarsh. However, my thoughts went out to Somerset, the first place I called home, and I bid farewell to my tribe and left to defend my homeland. I was simply trying to atone for my actions in Morrowind. In the end, when I arrived, I was already too late. I witnessed the fall of the Crystal Tower, and something within me resonated when the structure fell. I was consumed with hatred for Dagon and the forces of Oblivion, and slew scores of Dremora without mercy and retaliation. Yet I knew I had gone too far, and one of the eldest survivors recognised my magic, and claimed I was an Aldmer of times long past. No, I knew I could no longer walk among the world of man and man, and that peace and meditation was the only way to keep myself under control. I departed on the next ship to Skyrim, and sought refuge with the greybeards of High Hrothgar. I told them the truth, the same tale I told you, and they strived to teach me peace through meditation, contemplation, and worship of the gods. I have been with them ever since, learning of the world below through only distant whispers. Another voyage into a brave new world.